After the release of Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon, with the PS2 coming out, Insomniac Games wanted to move on from the Spyro franchise. And boy oh boy, were people mad. Insomniac wanted to make a game that's more darker, a more story in-depth analysis. In 2002, Insomniac released a 3D platform game going by the title Ratchet Clank. If Crash Bandicoot is my favourite video game series of all time, then this is my second favourite video game series of all time. Join me as I review everyone's favourite Lombax and his trusty robot companion, Ratchet Clank. The story starts off way into the future in planet Velden, home of the mechanic Lombax named Ratchet. What is a Lombax, you may ask? Well, a Lombax is a type of species that looks like a cat. We'll talk more about that in future installments. Meanwhile, on planet Quark 2, we see Clank, a defect but intelligent robot. After seeing Drek's plans, Clank escapes onto a ship and crashes in Velden. Ratchet finds Clank, and once Clank wakes up,
interesting guy!
He tells Ratchet that he's on a mission to stop Chairman Drake, a blog who wants to help his other blog friends by building a new home for them by taking sections of a planet. This will cause the planet to be destroyed. Ratchet and Clank will join forces, and together, they look to stop Chairman Drake's plans. Which reminds me, how did Clank get his name?
My serial number is V54296.
Oops! I'll just call you Clank for short.
Ha, how typical. And I call my electric toothbrush Buzz. Ratchet & Clank was designed as a platform game, but it had an action-packed feeling, blowing up enemies by using an arsenal of weapons. See what I did there? But seriously, one of the most memorable moments in a Ratchet & Clank game is the weapons lineup. Unfortunately, this game has one of the weakest weapons in the series. It's not as gimmicky or over the top like all the other Ratchet & Clank games. The weapons in this game is pretty basic. You've got your glove bomb, the blaster, the pyro sitter, which is a flamethrower, and the devastator, just to name a few. Those are basically the only 4 weapons that I use for the most part. There are other weapons that I'll buy, but I'll never use them because they're either bland or not inspiring, like the Walper for example. But there is one weapon you should consider getting, and I will not end this review without talking about it. The weapon I'm talking about is the Rip Ya a New One, also known as the Rhino. It's arguably one of the most overpowered weapon in a Ratchet & Clank game, and you can get it with a low discount of 150,000 bolts. Yeah, you might have to stick around playing the game if you want to get it. Speaking of bolts, they are everywhere in each planet. I know I'm not the only one that does this, but I find myself trying to find every single bolt in every single planet. You can use the bolts to purchase weapons, upgrade your health, and buy equipment from strangers. I somehow cringe every time I buy something that's from a stranger. If I'm saving up for a weapon I want to buy, then all of a sudden I have no choice but to buy a gadget from someone because the game demands it. It becomes annoying. And speaking of gadgets, you can get a number of gadgets, like the Trespasser, where you unlock doors to explore different areas, the Swing Shot, where you can swing from ledge to ledge avoiding gaps, and the Hologuise, where you can disguise yourself as the enemy and entering their territory. The soundtrack is pretty good, probably not as memorable as the others, but once you hear it, you instantly know it's a Ratchet & Clank song. One of the problems I have with this game is that you can't strafe. Well, you technically can, but the controls are slippery and it feels weird to maneuver. Ratchet & Clank is also best known for their character interactions. You get to meet characters like Skid McMarx, the Plumber, Helga, Big Al, the Mayor of Novalis, and of course, well, let me just add some quotes around here. A superhero, Captain Quark, who later on reveals himself working for Chairman Drake this whole time. There is so much interacting with characters, it never gets boring. In the game, you can explore from planet to planet, and each planet having its own background story. What's really interesting is the gameplay changes every now and then. One part you play as Ratchet with Clank by your side, another part where you play as Clank just by himself, and holy shit, you can play as a giant Clank. And there's even a planet where you just play as Ratchet himself. There's even a section where you platform. The gameplay style never gets boring. Maybe except for the part where you play as Clank. I think it slows down the gameplay style in my opinion. I also love the interaction between Ratchet and Clank, going back and forth, arguing at each other, but at the end, they got along just fine. Clank was the voice of reason, telling Ratchet to not forget about the main objective. Ratchet was a hothead. The only thing he cared about was trying to get revenge on Quark. After seeing the video of Drake's planning to destroy planet Veldin, Ratchet's home planet, Ratchet finally sees and understands what's been happening.
He is going to pay!
Excuse me?
It shouldn't have taken me this long to see it! Drek is going to find out what happens when you mess with my home! What are you smiling at?
This is the Ratchet I always knew was there.
Okay, if we're gonna do this, we need to get onto Drek's ship. And then we can find out where he set up that laser.
I will try to make you proud, Mom.
Ratchet and Clank finally manages to catch up with Chairman Drake, and Drake reveals his true plans.
You think that's what this is about? Who do you think polluted our last world? I did. This is about one thing and one thing only. Cash, and lots of it. You see, I've been paid for every square inch of my new world. Once the inhabitants move in, I will begin polluting this world as well. Then the whole thing starts all over again. Ah, brilliant.
And not only they defeat Drake, but they save the galaxy from destruction. And after this whole bonding experience, Ratchet and Clank decides to continue their adventures together, waiting for the day when bad guys show up, you can rely on a Lombax and his trusty robot companion. So, what happened to Captain Quark? Well, after he was defeated by the dynamic duo, well, let's just say that he's trying to get his fame back. And that will tie in to the next game. Ratchet & Clank is one of those games that had room for improvement, but it was on to a good start. I think this game still holds up to this day, despite the reboot. The story is well done, the controls are tight, and the gameplay doesn't get boring, well, for the most part. The bad things I have about this game is the weak lineup of weapons and not being able to strafe. This was considered to be the rival of Jak and Daxter. How about that? The gameplay you're seeing is the HD collection on PlayStation 3, but I just played on PlayStation 2, because I've heard that there is a few glitches. But if you're into HD quality and don't have a PlayStation 2, then I suppose you could get the HD collection. I give Ratchet & Clank a 7 out of 10. The next game I'll review is Ratchet & Clank 2, Going Commando, which I think is the best game titles of all time. Until then folks, have a quark-tastic day!
Thank you, and have a quark-tastic day!
What'd you say?
Nothing.